Okay, so now let's us proceed with the second part of our webinar. So we have here Associate Professor Dr. Haliza Harun as the second speaker. Doctor, are you in this?
Yes, I am, but I can't switch on my camera. So sorry about that.
Okay, no worries. It's okay, tak apa.
Okay.
Okay. So before Dr. Haliza starts her presentation, I will share just a brief background about her. But before that, I just want to share this important poster. Okay. All right. Um, Associate Professor Dr. Haliza research interest lies in social cultural theory and language learning, which she's really eager to explore more as she grows in her research journey. What fascinates her the most is how social cultural theory shows that the language in interaction doesn't just reflect people's thought, but actually shapes how they think and learn. She finds this especially interesting because it ties closely to how language is used to create meaning in social situations. Okay, therefore, uh, Doctor's Dr. Haliza's presentation topic is on the discourse analysis of private speech, insights into regulated language learning. Over to you, Doctor.
All right. Thank you very much. It's a mouthful, to the topic itself. So sorry about that. Okay, I'll I'll just share my slide. Is that okay? Okay. Hopefully, I can share my slide. All right. Where is my slide? Let's see. I'm trying to find my slide. Hold on. Okay. Why is it not there? Hold on. I'll just share the entire screen first so that I can share my slide. All right. So can you see the slides?
Yes, Doctor. We can
All right.
see
Okay. Okay. Okay.
the entire
Okay.
screen.
The entire screen. All right. So for today, my topic would be discourse analysis of private speech, insights into self-regulated language learning. I guess probably a few may have heard the term or the phrase private speech. I'm not so sure, but those in the Vygotskian field would know what private speech is, and so we will explore that together today. Just an introduction of that. But basically, what I'm going to do is that today we'll start by looking at private speech, the concept that is being introduced by Vygotsky. And this is basically, when we talk about private speech, it is more of talking to yourself. And it helps. Why? Within that field, it says that by talking to yourself, you are actually helping yourself to think, to plan, as well as to navigate your thinking. And then after that, in the second section of this presentation, it will be related more or less to discourse analysis, and then we will analyze excerpts of learners' private speech, because I'm looking at language learning, right? So we will analyze learners' private speech to see how they organize their thoughts, they solve problems, and so on as they are learning. All right. Okay. Moving on. The first thing that we have to really understand is private speech. So, what is private speech? So, Vygotsky introduced the concept of private speech, which is basically the step between talking with others as well as to yourself. It is called self directed speech or even self explaining speech. All right. At this stage, right, children will talk to themselves. If we are looking at children, it's similar to the progress that can be found, I think, within us as we learn something new. But now I'm just comparing to children because that's much easier for you to understand the concept. At this stage, okay, children will talk to themselves, or you yourself can talk to themselves as a way to guide your thinking as well as to control the behavior. So gradually, these out loud words right, for little children, when they were small, they like to talk to themselves. You notice that, right? It's actually to guide their thinking. But as they gradually master the skills and so on, those out loud words will become inner speech. That will help them to control complex thinking and also problem solving, right? So here, what Vygotsky is saying is that private speech is a very important tool for self-regulation and also cognitive development. I'll explain later about self-regulation. All right, okay, right. So what is self-regulation? All right. Private speech is a tool for self-regulation because self-regulation, first of all, is about controlling one's behavior and as well as learning process. So when learners talk to themselves, aloud or silently, right, they direct their actions, plans, steps, or even they remind themselves of the strategies they are using. I think we do that every day. It's just that we never know that it is private speech, right? So we might talk to ourselves, especially when we have problems and so on, and we're trying to solve the problems. So, for example, here given a student solving a math problem. So the student might say something like, first I would have to multiply these numbers and then add the results and so on, right? So this guides the thought and action of the student, right? So that is one. So private speech is more of talking to yourself. The next one is as a cognitive mediation, right? So when we talk about cognitive mediation, what does that mean? It means that private speech helps to bridge whatever task outside the external task to your thought, all right, to your internal thoughts. So meaning here, when learners, they talk to themselves while doing a task, they are actually using words to connect what they see outside, right, the task itself, and what they are thinking. So it becomes the bridge. So here it mediates their external, what you call task, as well as their internal thought by structuring the thought, right, problem solving, and also internalizing knowledge. So I'll give you an example. Say, for example, a child is trying to solve a mathematic problem, right? So the child might say something like, okay, 7 plus 5 is carry the one, now I have to add and so on. So by speaking to themselves, right, they are actually organizing their steps, checking their work, and also guiding their thinking. So over time, as they are able to control, their understanding, this talking aloud will become silent inner speech, right? Sometimes you sit alone, just staring at blank spaces, but actually you are actually talking to yourself, right? It's like a dialogue, inner dialogue within you. So that is known as inner speech, which is originating from private speech. I think we will look into that later. And then this in a way helps them to solve their problems in their head without babbling or talking to themselves, just in their head silently to solve the problem. All right. The next thing is related to private speech within social cultural theory. So social cultural theory, which is of course based on Vygotskian thought, right? According to social cultural theory, human development is shaped by social interactions and also cultural context. So here, why does it say that development comes from what do you call social interaction? It's because interaction is actually the enabling process that helps and supports your cognitive growth. You need to engage in discussion and so on so that you can develop further to the next stage. So for little children as well, interaction is actually one of the key feature for them to develop, right? So through social engagement, so individuals will co-construct knowledge. So what is co-construct knowledge? Meaning that they build understanding together by sharing ideas, asking questions, and also solving problems like what we are doing now. It's just that we are not solving problems, of course, but we are co-constructing knowledge, trying to understand further by discussing and so on. Right, so private speech acts as a transitional stage, moving from the social plane, which is the outside, right, the intermental plane to the internalization stage, which is the intramental plane that is within you and yourself. So from outside, and then private speech is the transition stage, and then it goes within yourself. So this diagram, briefly, that I can explain is that social plane is where the learning occurs through interaction with others. And then you have the private speech, which is the self-directed speech that you use to self-direct, right, guide your thoughts and so on while you are interacting or carrying out an experiment or activity. And then internalization or intramental stage, whereby it becomes the inner speech, is the silent speech that you have between you and yourself, but just silently talking to yourself. So the next one, all right, let's look at the diagram further. So at the external stage of, or the social plane as we call it, learning starts through interaction with others like teachers, caregivers, peers, and so on. And then at this stage also knowledge is shared and they are modeled and also guided, right? Co-construction of knowledge. The next one is the transitional stage, which is known as the private speech. So this is the bridge between the social as well as the individual thinking. So here, children or new learners, right, learning something new, they begin talking aloud to themselves to guide what they are doing. For example, reminding themselves of steps or encouraging themselves. So private speech helps them to focus, control emotion, and also plan or organize their thoughts. The next one is internalization. At the internal level, private speech becomes inner speech. So children no longer speak out loud, but they will use their mental language, right? The silent speech that they have to think and regulate their own cognitive behavior. So you will not see any whispering or murmuring whatsoever. It's more of everything happening inside the head. So this marks the shift from socially guided to independent thinking. You are able to, you have already mastered that skills. It's just that you are organizing everything and it happens all in your head, right? You talking to yourself. Right. The next thing is sociocultural theory concept of development. So when we talk about development within the scope of Vygotsky, we are really talking about how people learn to manage or control their own behavior or thinking, right? So this is what it's known as self-regulation. You monitor and you control and you are able to manage, right? So the highest stage would be, of course, you are able to manage, structure your thoughts and so on. So that's the highest self-regulation. So but in the beginning, you will use that private speech to actually help you to regulate, to manage the task at hand, okay? And then, so this is regulation, right? So in terms of regulation, it comes from outside of us. For example, parents, teachers, or even tools like blocks and so on, we use to help to guide us and also to help us in terms of our thinking. So this is known as external regulation, right? So you are able to regulate yourself by like when you start learning mathematics, like adding and doing your minus operations, right, abstract and subtract. You have balls, or even you have sometimes small what do you call marbles and so on, or little small pebbles and so on, put in front of you on the table, and then you are supposed to add 1 plus 1 and so on. So that is actually how external objects helped you to control, right, to manage the new learning, right, that you are internalizing. Okay, but as we grow and we learn, we start to take control, all right, of that particular concept ourselves. So we begin to regulate our own action and thoughts without needing as much outside help. So this shift that shows that our thinking has developed. So it starts out from something social happening between people, that is called intermental, and then gradually becomes something individual, which is inside our mind, which is the intramental plane. All right. The next one is the three main types of regulation, which is object regulation, other regulation, and also self-regulation. So in short, object regulation is when our thinking is guided by physical objects or tools around us. For example, as I mentioned just now, the pebbles, the what do you call, the sometimes we have you have to put pencils in front of you, one pencil minus two pencils, or one pencil plus two pencils equals to how many pencils, those kind of thing. So we have to have that object, right? So because that object helps to us to guide our thinking and also our action. Or you can use blocks, for example, to count, right? Especially for children. So here, cognition is mediated by tangible things outside the person. The next one is other regulation, which happens when learning is guided by someone more experienced, like your teacher, your parent, or even peer. They helped you, right? They help you through. So through interaction and support, the learner would start to build understanding with the help of others, right? So you would have your teacher in front of you, saying, oh, this is wrong, this is right, and so on. So that is other regulation. But if you achieve self-regulation, that means you are independent. So here, everything, right, that was once external now becomes internalized. So this person can now control their own thinking and behavior independently. And for Vygotsky, that's what it means by true development. Okay, so when you are self-regulate, meaning that at an instant, if I say 1 plus 1, you automatically know it's 2, right? Without thinking, for a long time, just, it's with a snap of a finger, it's 2. So that is self-regulation. You achieve that highest development. All right, so in detail, all right, I go briefly. Object regulation means that our thinking is supported or guided by physical objects around us. So in other words, cognition is externally mediated. We depend on tangible tools to help us to think and as well as to act. So at this stage, a person's behavior is really shaped by the physical environment or by the objects that they use. You can see here in the picture, the girl is using her fingers as well as the abacus, right? And then, for example, a beginner language learner, for example, might rely on textbook or even dictionary or even flashcards to form sentences maybe. And these tools would help them to think through the process until they can do it naturally. So this is object regulation. They need something tangible. The next stage that they would go through, right, before independent or self-independent learning would be the other regulation. So here what happens is that according to Vygotsky, this is where learning happens through interaction with someone more capable, who is much more expert than you. For example, the teacher, the parent, or even a peer, right? That's possible as well. So here, the learner's behavior is guided and supported by the other person. They help the learner stay on track or maybe correct the mistakes or build understanding through shared activity. All right. For example, a teacher might scaffold a student's second language speaking task by giving prompts or even gentle corrections, right? That is wrong, that is right, good, and so on. Or a peer might help clarify meaning during a conversation. This kind of support takes place within also, I think many of you know, which is known as ZPD or Zone of Proximal Development, ZPD. The space whereby the learner can succeed with a bit of guidance before they are able to do it completely on their own. I think ZPD is very famous in Malaysia, but most of the time they only focus on ZPD. They do not really look into the origins, how it at what stage that ZPD occurs within this process of learning itself. It starts early on. So ZPD is in the middle, right? Middle process of regulating or becoming master in a particular subject or topic and so on, or task or activity. All right. And finally, we move on to self-regulation. So here, Vygotsky's view is that this is where what was once external, things that were guided by others and also by objects, become internalized. We are able to do it on our own without any help, right? By using our own mental process. So internalize here means that the learner has absorbed those external supports and made them part of their own thinking. So what used to happen outside through help or through tools that they used previously now happens inside the mind. So at this stage, the learner can control and direct their own behavior independently, right? So for example, a second language learner might start monitoring their own thoughts and then plan how they use the concept that they have learned effectively. So they no longer need any materials and so on, so they can guide themselves, right? They are able to do it on their own. Okay, so when talking about self-regulation or private speech, I think the most important thing that we need to understand as well is the concept of I and you versus I and me, all right? So in terms of this concept, this example here, right, in the yellow box, right, the dialogue itself, this example illustrates the difference between I and the me in our thinking. This is what is happening to us, many of us, when we are alone trying to solve things and so on. We'll be talking to ourselves, right? So say, for example, a person is getting ready to wear something, all right, and trying to decide which dress to wear, right? So she might, or she might, she might have this some sort of internal dialogue with herself, right? So for instance here, the I would ask something like, should I wear the green or the green dress or the orange one, or the here it's the coral dress one, and then the me on the other hand will evaluate, critiques, and sometimes revises those plans. So it considers things like style, comfort, and how we might be perceived by others, as you can see in this dialogue, right? The coral dress might be too bright. Maybe the blue dress would work better, right? So this internal dialogue can be spoken softly out loud or even silently in our minds, depending on our stage of development. So essentially, the I would initiate action and the me would guide the action before we act on it externally. All right. So this is because Vygotsky has this some sort of a psychological part of learning as well. So I think it's much better for me to explain what private speech is, so that you have some sort of idea what it is actually within the what they call the framework of Vygotsky. All right. So in terms of private speech in second language learning as well as acquisition, right, private speech or self-talk plays an important role in second language learning, right? Researchers studying private speech as discourse have found that it's just not random or isolated talking to oneself, but instead it helps learners to think, plan, as well as regulate their language tasks. So for example, private speech can help structure and organize thinking, acting like mental roadmaps, right, for what to do next in learning. This is by Swain, right? It's also a tool for self-regulation or cognitive mediation, meaning that it helps learners process information or control their own thinking while using the language. In second language acquisition as well, learners often talk to themselves, right, through a task or a problem to mediate their thinking. This is what Lamtov states, right? And this shows how private speech is actually a very powerful tool for learning. All right. This is the definition that is given, right? So we are looking at private speech. Basically, is the speech for the self. It often starts out as part of the social interaction, but somehow gradually it is internalized and become part of us or our inner speech. More specifically, private speech refers to the vocalized forms of talk that help learners plan, guide, and monitor what they are doing to help them in terms of their metacognitive function. So even though it begins with a social origin, which is coming from the speech of others, right, with other people, private speech eventually takes on a private and cognitive role. It's not just interaction, social function, but more of a cognitive role to help learners think as well as regulate their own thinking. So let's look at the characteristics of private speech. These are the characteristics. So we start off with self-directed speech. So self-directed speech, this is the part where the speech is for yourself and not for anyone else. So next is the regulatory role. It helps you to control your behavior, right? It focuses your attention and manage tasks. So you'll see this especially when the task is very new and challenging. So when you were small, it is quite evident. You yourself may observe your children or your small child or maybe siblings or niece or nephews and so on. But as you grow older, right, it's internalized. But if you happen to encounter some sort of unfamiliar tasks, right, so private speech will again reveal itself, whereby you be seen as talking to yourself, even though you are adults. You're trying, because you are trying to manage the new information. So normally it happens very evidently, right, in challenging or unfamiliar tasks. So then we have abbreviated or idiosyncratic what they call speech, which is here private speech is one is for yourself, two is it helps you to guide, plan, and so on. Third, it is shorter, right? It's shorter and then less grammatical, and sometimes it's fragmented because you are talking to yourself at the same time you're thinking and also you're talking. So it's fragmented. It's not in full sentences. It's fragmented, right? So it reflects your thought, right? The condensed version of your thoughts. And finally, of course, it is reduced in volume. All right. So people might whisper, murmur, or even sometimes just mouth the words silently. So as you can see in the diagram, private speech is really a personal tool that guides your thinking and also your learning. So when I want to frame the discourse analysis and also private speech in language learning. So discourse analysis, I think we have a lot of experts here. You are, I guess, more expert than I am, right? So it's the study of how language is used in the context to create meaning, express identity, or even to perform social actions. Okay, so this is the literal definition. For example, by looking at how speakers extend their talks to signal relationship, organize their thoughts, and so on, right? In educational and cognitive settings, discourse analysis can help us to see how learners engage with the knowledge through talk, particularly in metacognitive as well as reflective processes. So this connects closely with Vygotsky's idea of private speech, because private speech, as you know, is a self-directed talk that is essential. That is an essential tool for us, right, to support our thinking, self-regulation, as well as learning. Right. So in practice, private speech often shows up during problem solving and reflects two things: the internalization of social dialogue, right? You have internalized the social dialogue itself, but now it's not socially verbalized out loud, but more of you yourself. So internalize, and this, at the same time also the transformation of interpersonal communication into intrapersonal cognitive activities between you and yourself and your thoughts, right? So you're using that to help you guide your thinking and so on. So by combining this discourse analysis and also the study of private speech, we can really understand how learners use their language to think and as well as to regulate their own thinking, right? So if they are talking to themselves, that's okay, right? They are actually regulating or trying to make sense of new information and so on, especially in little children. You will see that very clearly when they are talking to themselves and so on. So that is actually, there's a function to it according to Vygotskian view, right? All right, so next one is in terms of the analysis, all right, an analytical procedure, right? So here, so what I have done is that I want to explore how learners think through language. So my focus is on three, right, which is language patterns, the structure, as well as the function. So language patterns here are the specific words and grammars features that appear in discourse, like repetition, self-correction, fillers, or even question forms. And structure looks at how speech is organized, whether it's short commands, longer explanation, or even recursive loops of thoughts. You go back and forth, right? And function explains or examines what the speech is doing. Like, is it helping the learner to plan? Is it problem solving, or evaluating their performance, right? Okay, so when we talk about private speech, this would be the what do you call, the equivalent to this language pattern structure and also function. So we have, for instance, in private speech, in language patterns, private speech often signal moments of uncertainty, reflection, or even emphasis. All right. Structure shows how learners organize their thinking. Fragmented and exploratory private speech suggests that there is an active negotiation of meaning that's happening between you and yourself, while linear and coherent speech indicates that it is under control. So if you are going back and forth, you are actually trying to manage. The thinking is not achieved yet, the development is not there yet. But if it's in a linear form, that means you have regulate, or you have already able to master the task at hand. So it's much easier. So everything is in a linear form. And function is, of course, the self-regulation itself. It talks about the self-regulation. So you use private speech to solve problems, elaborate understanding, or evaluate your own performance, right? So these are some of examples of the language pattern, structure, and function of private speech. So what I have done is that I have two participants, both with MUET Band 3, right? And during the study, so what they have to do was that it's part of a bigger study. I'm sharing only a small bit of that particular big study. So what they have to do was that they were tasked to look at, it's not very clear here, but they were tasked to look at this a set of slides, right? A set of slides of tenses. We know that students have problems with tenses and so on. So rather than looking at, the form or structure of tenses, so what I did was to use cognitive grammar. So cognitive grammar is much different from the linear grammar. It's basically giving concepts for students to look. So what they did was that in this particular slide, they were trying to understand the differences between simple past, past progressive, and also present perfect. So I don't think that normally they don't have problems with simple past or past progressive, but more of present perfect. So by having this kind of diagram, they are able to look at the picture and try to make sense. So this is some sort of an object regulation stage that I give them. So during the study, the participants were asked to verbalize or self-explain to themselves the understanding. And of course, I would record their self-explanation. And then while they were looking at the slide, so there were no language restrictions, so they are allowed to use their L1 or even English, right? And no specific time was set for the session, so they could take some time and as much time as they needed to express their thoughts. But one thing that I would have to point out is that verbalization here within the scope of Vygotsky is very different from think aloud protocols or think aloud think aloud methods. All right, so it's very important for us to understand the differences here. With verbalization, learners use language to develop their own thinking, their own internal reasoning. So it's about guiding their speech through guiding their thinking through speech. But think aloud, on the other hand, it asks participants to verbalize their thoughts while performing a task. So the researchers, why do you want to do think aloud? Because researchers want to observe the cognitive processes in real time. So it's different. For verbalization, here is self-talk. You're talking to yourself. No one is interrupting you. But for think aloud, it's more of you having to describe what you're thinking, what you're doing, and so on, so that researchers who are actually analyzing your talk can see the processes that's going on, right? So it's very much different. So for many, verbalization is learning through talking, right? So that's a difference. Okay. So here is the transcribed verbalizations. of two participants whom we will call S9 and also S7. All right, so this is their talk. So they are both are individually having to self-explain the slide that they are, looking at and trying to make sense of the differences of the different tenses, the forms as well as the meaning itself. Okay, so this is their self-talk. All right. So this is the comparison between S9 as well as S7. All right, so looking at, because I mentioned just now, there are three things that I'm looking at: language patterns, functions, and so on. So this is the first one is language pattern. So in S9, language pattern, we can see that the private speech is very rich, right, in terms of, and it is very dialogic, meaning that it sounds like conversation. She is talking to herself, right? They are essentially, actually, she's talking to herself, talking to her thoughts, but she is softly, verbalizing that out loud. Like, for example, saying like, wait, how, and so on. So she's talking to herself. And then tentative here, right, the repetition, the self-directed questions, hesitation markers, and also tentative modality here, it shows that they are not so sure, right? So not so sure, and they are being very cautious. So she might say, she would say something like, I think, I guess, well, that's what I understand, and so on. So that's that tentative modality here, right? So we can see from the specific features here. Okay, so if you look more closely, the repetition is for processing and emphasis. So she's holding her ideas, right, and trying to navigate her attention, looking at, which one she's supposed to look at, number three, number one, and so on. But it's like talking to someone, but it's actually she's talking to herself, right? But it looks like it's a collaborative task, but it's a one person or solo task. All right. The next one is self-directed questions. So she asks herself questions and so on. It's like a peer and teacher and learner dialogue. But actually she's talking to herself, so it reflects that she is trying to make sense, right? So why is this like this? And the answer is this, and so on. So she is actually regulating or trying to take control of her understanding. So she's trying to check, she's trying to monitor and plan and so on. All right. Hesitation here, more of giving the real-time processing. It's showing that she is processing things, right? So for example, the and so on. So it's like you can see that something is happening inside her head, right? So there's some sort of processing going on, trying to make sense. So from basically like from 0 to level 1, for instance. All right. And of course, tentative modality is more of monitoring her own knowledge. Next one is in terms of structure, right? So in terms of structure, so let's look at the structure here. So she has some sort of, I have identified three, which is back and forth reasoning, chunking the sentences by sentence analysis, and also integrating the visual and also verbal input. So if you look at the structure, the dialogic is very like self-conversation. They have clear turns, right? It's like two people talking to each other, but it's not. It's one person. And then one example is the back and forth reasoning here, where she poses a question, isn't that in the past? And then she tries to answer it. But the event, it extends until the present moment, and then and so on, right? So she's talking to herself, asking and questioning and also answering her own questions. Next is in terms of chunking, where she breaks down sentences one by one. So she looks at the sentence, and lives with her parents, and then she's trying to make sense of what's happening. So Anne was living. So what's the difference between Anne was living and Anne has lived, right? So here she's making sense right? Rereading, analyzing, hypothesizing, and also integrating what she understands and then evaluating. And the next one and the final one is integration of this visual and verbal. So she refers to the diagram. So we can say she is still object regulated. She needs a diagram to help her make sense of the tenses, right? So that you can see here something like she says this line is extended until the present moment. The line is only within this box, right? The event is there. It is so far apart and separated and so on. So she's talking to herself, but she's using the diagram. So she is very much object regulated here. All right. The next one is in terms of function, so which highlights her self-regulated learning processes. So here we have analysis, problem solving, hypothesis generation, self-assessment, clarification, and also cognitive conflict. So in terms of analysis, we can see that she breaks down sentences carefully. For example, she says something like she had completed here with a clear beginning and also ending of that particular action. And then problem solving, she's asking questions like by why, but why? Then she helps clarify her own question. And then hypothesis generation, whereby she tests her ideas. If I am viewing an action, then the verb form to be used is, so she's talking to herself and then testing, right? Monitoring and evaluating. Then self-assessment, so she monitors her own understanding with phrases like, I think I can understand the differences, I guess, right? Clarification, she checks her focus, saying something like, next one, and was leaving. Oh, let's look at this one, right? Let's look at E1. And then cognitive conflict, she grapples with these the concepts, the tricky concepts, which is I think most of the participants, they have problems with understanding present perfect tense, right? So it's quite difficult for them. So here she's grappling with that concept. So we can see that. So she's trying to connect what she understands with whatever is presented on the slide. All right, the next one is S7. Okay, so again, this is a solo learner as well, looking at the slide. All right, so what happened is that in terms of her narration, as we can see here, there's a mix of what do you call everything, right? So precision, reasoning, as well as conversational markers. So showing that there is some sort of both cognitive engagement and also self-directed dialogue. She's talking to herself again, but she's processing things. All right. So she used hedging and questioning. For example, she asked things like, "Isn't it any? Is it anyway, or is it right? Or is there any viewing frame?" Which shows she's testing her understanding. Metacognitive expression. So she uses phrases like "I think," "That's what I understand," which reflects her self-assessment and awareness of the learning process. So she says, "Oh, okay, I think that's what I understand." Right. So sometimes I do that as well. So you're talking to yourself, you are monitoring your understanding. The next one is discourse markers and fillers. So a lot of use of so okay, and so on. And these fillers acts, or discourse markers acts like internal turn-taking signals, helping her to organize her thoughts. The final one is more of repetition and reformulation. So here she is actually looking at it, right? And trying to show self-correction and so on. Okay, here. So here what we can say is that they have this hedging, questioning, and so on. It's showing that she's thinking aloud. She's not just stating facts, but thinking aloud. And then she's seeking internal confirmation. And then she knows her limits. That's why she says, I think that's why I understand, right? So she says, okay, this is what I understand. I think that's it. So she's limiting what she understands. She's aware of her limits. And then it simulate a dialogue when she has these discourse markers and so on. So it simulates the social dialogue that she would have if there is someone next to her, right? But here it is for herself, and she's organizing her thinking as well as responding to cognitive cues. And finally, when she repeats and so on, she is actually self-correcting or emphasizing on some key points and so on, which of course is very crucial when you are learning or trying to understand a new concept. Okay, and the next one is in terms of structure. So here again, it's very self-dialogic. So meaning that it's like a dialogue, you talking to yourself. And it means here we can say that there's a lot of scaffolding happening here, the scaffolding process. Here it means that she's testing and then she's refining her ideas as she goes. So the repetition, the pausing, the reformulations, all these things mirror the natural conversation that is going on. If there is someone who is supposed to help her, right? So it mirrors some sort of a conversation that is going on, but this is an internal speech uh, with a dialogic nature. So like a conversation. So for example, when she says, Anne has lived on her own for 10 years, and then she questions, no boundaries here, or is it? And then observe, these green lines are there is, except there is no endpoint. So she's talking, pointing, and so on, right? So as seven move between explaining concepts and applying examples, and then returning again to clarify her interpretations, and then revisit the old information that she has within in the previous what you call slides. I only focus on this slide, but she also revisits the previous slides, meaning what she understands from the previous slides. And then also, her internal process here shows that there's some sort of a pattern going on, whereby she state an idea and then she questioned it, and then she explained it, and then she revisit it with elaboration, and then she evaluate her understanding. So it shows here again very clearly that there this private speech that she is performing here to herself support her active learning as well as her understanding or self-regulation. Okay. Finally, in terms of the function, so in the functions of S7's private speech shows that it supports thinking, problem solving, as well as learning management. So problem solving here, you can see she works through distinctions between verb forms like lived, was living, and has lived. So she's thinking, right? What's the difference between lived, was living, and has lived? And then she's unpacking the grammar concepts such as what is tense, what is aspect, what's the viewing frames, and so on. So these are elements that I use, which is based on cognitive grammar, right? Where a lot of you don't learn tenses by this build, by the forms and function, but more of concepts. You have to understand the concepts, and that's applied into the tenses. All right. So the next one is cognitive monitoring and self-repair. All right. So here she uses phrases like or is it? And then and no point, no end point except there is. And then showing she's questioning, revisiting, and correcting her own interpretation. Inference and integration, she connects diagram, visuals, timeline concepts, because in the diagram there's the timeline, because she wants to understand what is past tense, what is progressive, and also past perfect. So she's looking at the timeline, she's looking at the visuals, the diagram, and also the grammatical rules. So she's integrating all this multimodal input with her prior knowledge. And self-assessment, if you can see here, she uses phrases like, I think that's what I understand. She engaged in this metacognitive evaluation. So she's reflecting, right, and showing that she's confident and signaling that, yeah, this is what I understand. So making a conclusion of what she understands. All right. The next one is the overall analysis. So interestingly, both are individual, doing the task individually. They are not talking to each other or whatsoever. It's just them alone, them and the computer in front of them. But interestingly, it's like they are having what is evident is that their private speech that they produce indicate that there is some sort of conversation that's occurring within themselves or between them, right? Between what you and I, right? He or and herself. Okay. So what we can see is that in terms of the overall analysis, if we look at the what do you call? If we look at the range of language patterns, right? Range of language patterns, what we can say is that it supports self-regulation and also reflection. Okay. discourse markers. They use discourse markers to help them sequence their ideas, to help them guide their thinking using words like so, then, and then next, and so on. All right. And then they also use fillers and hesitation markers such as and so on, like and so on. That signals that there's some sort of moments of uncertainty. So they are like rechecking, oh, I understand like this. Oh, it's not. So it's like, so sometimes they do not say that out loud, but just all these fillers and so on, you can hear, so sometimes they say like, oh, and so on, right? With the, with the higher intonation going up, asking, questioning oneself. These patterns also show that they are actually thinking, but through the language that they use. And also, in terms of discourse structure, their discourse structure, however, may be different in the sense of S7 speech, right? The second participant or the second student, her speech is much more fragmented, right, and recursive, meaning that there's a lot of frequent pauses, restart, back and forth. She's going back and forth, right? So her style also is very exploratory. She's like trying to make sense of things, so she's exploring everything, and then she's focused on making meaning as she goes along, right, trying to understand the concept. But for S9, her conversation or her private speech is much more linear and coherent. She was able to name the grammatical forms, and she can explain their functions. In a way, it shows that she has a stronger understanding in terms of the meta-linguistic and awareness. She's able to, understand what's going on and so on. But S7, she's still grappling, trying to make sense of the, of the concept of the tenses. So overall, you can say that S9 demonstrate a higher degree of conceptual organization and planned reasoning in comparison to S7, which is more of making meaning approach and just exploring the concept. All right. Finally, in terms of the previous one was the differences, but in terms of similarity, what we can see is that looking at the discourse structure, both shows dialogic and conversational style of talking. There are frequent interruptions that indicate that there is some sort of active problem solving going on, right, within that particular learner. So both also use or refer to external visual materials, for example, the diagram or the slide. So S9 makes these references more explicit, clearly linking the visual to the linguistic form in order for her to understand the theme, right, the concept itself. But for S7, it is more, the references are more implicit. So she relies on her understanding of the particular context, right? And for the functions for both S7 and S9, they both plan, monitor, and evaluate their understanding using the private speech, right? For instance, S7 say something like, I think that's what I understand, or S9 would say something like, what I can understand here is that, right? And then it helps them to hypothesize, clarify, or even consolidate knowledge. Consolidate knowledge here means that they integrate their previous knowledge with whatever is in front of them, the new knowledge here. So they use that. So they formulate a hypothesis, or they try to make meaning, right? Trying to be in between of their old knowledge and the new knowledge that they are gaining here. So at the same time also, they link grammar concepts with visual and examples, showing, of course, they are object regulated. And if you look at S9, she's much more sophisticated in terms of learning, I can say, because she would use some sort of instructional style discourse, because she would use terms, specific terms and so on, like past tense, present tense, and so on, frames and so on. So we can see that she understands much better than S7. So what we can say about the key takeaways, right? Both S7 and also S9 shows the dialogic thinking in their private speech, where internal voices, internal voices questions, respond, and even negotiate meaning. At the same time, also there is some sort of self-directed thought. It's not just verbalizing thoughts, but more of self-directed. It is an internal dialogue that actually supports the understanding or trying to solve certain things or certain tasks or problems. They differ in terms of linguistic and structural style because they have some sort of shared patterns like hesitation, repetition, and also self-questioning. And finally, functionally, both engage in metacognitive regulation and also problem solving, highlighting that private speech helps them in terms of their cognitive process. So here we should understand that it's when we talk about interaction within Vygotsky frame, it is not really interaction as for communication only, but interaction is actually some sort of cognitive tool that we can use to help us make sense of things around us. So I guess that is all, right? Thank you very much. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Haliza, for the very compelling, it doesn't sound right, compelling presentation just now. Uh, so I think TLDR, and in a nutshell, I think this is what happens when pedagogy meets social linguistic, right?
Yeah, that's possible.
Yes, because what Dr. Haliza was explaining just now involves many theories from education. So, and I never seen the day that these actually two theories from education and linguistic can coexist and can work together. That's a very interesting study from Dr. Haliza.
Thank
Um,
you.
okay, all right. So I now open the floor for questions from the audience. So you can choose to turn on the microphone or you can write your questions in the chat. In the meantime, I think I have probably one question for me. Doctor, is it possible for any researcher or linguistic or education researcher to to incorporate the framework that you were using just now into to look into the a discourse between AI generated voices between the speakers, like we want to.
Uh, Oh, okay. The interaction itself.
Mm,
It depends because actually the socio-cultural theory it doesn't only being used in I think education, but also they're looking at interaction, gestures, and so on. So these are making meaning how things interact with us and how we develop. So it's more of that developing thing, right? But of course, it is more on education and possibly we do have what do you call studies being done looking at how computer interact with us, regulating things. But again, the interaction must be some sort of a very normal conversational like what do you call interaction that's going on between these two speakers. But it's possible, I think, depending on the context. It's actually deeper because it's more of because if you talk about Vygotsky, it's not just psychology but also sociology is also in there because he has this Marxism idea as well. So that is everything mashed into this particular concept. So people would use this theory for different purposes, as I can say.
okay, doctor. Thank you for the response. I think I will look further into the various approaches, various um, the 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 aspects that you were mentioning just now, whether this framework can be extended into a different discipline. Okay, so thank you, doctor, for your presentation. And just one question from the chat box. Um, Hi, doctor. Can you explain how can you search in Ankong, I have tried rejects. Rejects is regular expression, but I cannot get result. Then I try to regard it as a word. I get no result too. Finally,
I think that is for Dr. Habibah probably, right?
yeah. I think it's more related to Dr. Habibah. Yeah, I think this question actually is for Dr. Habibah. And if Dr. Habibah is not around, I think anybody here can respond to it. Probably I can too. Okay, so Mr. Zhang Jing uh, is asking question about the usage in Ankong. So can I use this method in the paper or dissertation to count the frequency? Do you have a better ways to search it? Dr. Habibah, do you want to take this one?
Well, I'm not very familiar with regex.
Rejects,
To be
very
honest,
regular.
it's regular expression, right? So
Yes, regular
different
expression.
software. Basically, I call it regular expression. For Ancom, I think some of you need to run it with a certain command. But with other software, you can easily create it. Your question is, you cannot get the results. I'm not familiar with Ancom. The best person would be Dr. Leng Hong. I'm not sure if Amizan can answer that. Can answer related to this Ancom. You can go ahead. For me, I'm more familiar with Langsbox and UAM, also Wordsmith. The second question, finally SHE and can obtain many results of example. Can I use this method in the paper or is it to count the frequency of example? Yeah, of course, if you find EG and using a copper software, you can definitely use that method and present that as a result if that is the focus of your research. And it depends on the focus of research. Do you have a better ways to search it? Well, since everyone is here is in corpus linguistics, I guess our suggestion will be related to corpus linguistics too. So I'm not sure whether there are better ways to search for it. Perhaps computer scientists maybe have an alternative compared to other corpus from the existing corpus tool that we have like Langswong or Wordsmith. But most corpus tool like UAM, Wordsmith, Langswong, and even Encon, they can easily get you the results related to the word that you're finding in the word that you are looking for. Inshallah, I think. Yeah. Amisan, if you want to add in related to Encon and Regex, go ahead.
Okay, I will add just a little bit information about the rejects. I I actually came across this function in Ankong. Actually, I look into the web just now because when I took the courses in from this particular lecturer, Tafendi, he taught me how to use wildcard. So you can use this. I never tried it, but I think it's still it's a working function. It's still working. uh, I think it's doable using this sharing by this forum. Okay, but just to add, I normally didn't use I don't search regular expression using Ankong. I use Python, so I just incorporate in my script code. I think it's a lot more easier in my preferences because I can tune it. I can put many function with it too. So yes, I familiar. You can use the rejects search function in the Ankong, but you need to explore it further. Probably you need to look into the function using wildcard. There's a settings here, setting in the Ankong. So I think no more questions. I think that's the only question for today for these two sessions. Okay, so again, thank you very much to both Dr. Habibah and Dr. Haliza for allocating your time and sharing your expertise. This is to ensure our MCRN community receive their knowledge about the advances in corpus linguistic because right now the corpus linguistic studies is always expanding. There are always many endeavors, many research, many disciplines that we need to explore, not just limiting ourselves to to education, to social media. We can look into, you know, the deception and whatnot. Okay, so I think time after time we will discover more discipline, discover more interesting studies that we will share uh, from our by our bi-monthly webinar. So okay, I think before we wrap this session and have a photo to commemorate our knowledge sharing session, I think our steering committee have something to announce. So I think I would pass this floor to Rahina.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Amizan. Wait, let me share. Window. Okay, alamak, no audio. Okay, there's supposed to be an audio for this video that I am sharing.
Share it on your behalf, right? If you want.
Oh, okay, all right. Boleh juga, Dr. Habibah. Let me stop sharing then. Because with Google Meet, they ask you to open it in another Chrome tab. So it's a bit limited in terms of sharing the audio. I just learned this as well. Okay, so this is an early notification about the Malaysian Corpus Research Symposium 2026. The link has already been posted, so if you are interested, you can join the Telegram group that has been upped in the chat, and details about it will be shared by Dr. Habibah in her shared screen.
Okay. I think I have to share it on Canva instead, because it asks you to share on a tab, right?
Yeah.
So I'll try to do that in a minute. While you all wait for the audio and video, I just want to share that in 2026, inshallah, Faculty of Major Language Studies will be hosting the next Malaysian Corpus Research Symposium. So that will happen next year. So for those of you who are interested to join us, I would love for those people to quickly click the link to join our Telegram info and support group. So I'm gonna play the video in a bit. I'm gonna make it bigger. Okay, sharing this video in a minute. Okay, sharing now. For information related to the symposium, you can contact me or Associate Professor Dr. Zainul Rijal. We are co-directors of this symposium, and we welcome papers from not only from Malaysia but also from our international colleagues and students abroad as well. We imagine that it will be both. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Where's Dr. Habibah now?
I think her network is unstable. Then we can wait for her to respond.
Or I could play it.
Right, sorry, I got disconnected. But yeah, go ahead and share the audio, the video without audio. That doesn't matter, because when I tried to try and share the video, the web couldn't handle.
Also the same.
Yeah, the same thing.
Okay, all right.
Okay. So this is a teaser. It is a video to our event. And the link to join our Telegram group is posted in the chat box as well later, inshallah. my MCRN steering committee will also post it in the WhatsApp group. Do share it with your colleagues, and we're happy to see that many new people are joining. The research network is now at 242 members. Thank you very much. Yeah, this is the video. Gonna mute my mic now. Thanks.
Okay. So that is the end of the video. So,
I think we didn't see any video.
no video.
I think just my screen or.
Okay, all right. So, one moment. Sorry, everyone. Okay, technical issues. Okay.
Well, actually, if we can share in the group, that's fine as well. Yeah, we can go on and take a picture.
Yes.
Now, I think people are just waiting.
Okay.
True.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
We will view the video through the WhatsApp group. Okay. All right.
So,
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Raina and Dr. Habibah for sharing our upcoming programs next year, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think before we wrap our session, to commemorate this insightful session, both of the session, I think let's have a photo session. So everyone is invited to turn on your camera and reveal yourself. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's have a picture. So you can, I will give you some time to, adjust everything, put on the happy face and yours.
Best smile.
Yeah, and smile. That's the most important part. Okay. All right. So just the four of us. I need to change the layout. What else? Just view. Let me see. Okay. Okay. More people are coming. More people are revealing themselves. Oh, I am seeing my SB there. Okay. Okay, Doctor. Okay, all right. So I think we don't want to waste any more time. Let's take a picture together, okay? All right. Give me a second. I don't know what's the shortcut for this. Okay. Models. Okay, all right. Let's try again. Okay, so you can ready your smile. Okay, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Another one. You can make any poses. 1, 2, and 3. Okay. All right. This. Okay. Okay, so I think, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of the webinar. On behalf of Malaysian Corporate Research Network, I would like to express my appreciation to everyone for attending this webinar. So thank you as well to both our speaker for volunteering to share on their work for this platform. to our participant, if you are interested in becoming a speaker, you may fill in the expression interest form, which I will post in the chat. Just in case you want to share something interesting, you can use this form to fill. Okay. So tentatively, our next webinar will be in just 2 months' time, on December, inshallah. So be on the lookout for the announcement of it. So thank you again, and I hope to see you in December. Goodbye and assalamualaikum.
Okay, Waalaikumsalam. Thanks so much, Amizan, for moderating. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Habibah, and also Dr. Haliza.